Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cam's rolling.
And 3, 2.
I am your host, Hank Vatt, and it's good to have everybody there. Sign on, leave some comments. We look forward to some engagement as well. We've got in the center Rand Henderson. He is our incumbent. On the right-hand side, we've got Wesley Doolittle, and on the left, we've got Kenton Ford. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How you doing?
Howdy.
Y'all ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
before we begin, I'd like to go over the rules once again. All right, so this debate will be moderated by Hank Vatt, myself. The purpose of this debate is to allow the candidates to present their views on key issues and engage in constructive discussion. All right, order of speaking positions. The order of speaking positions will be determined by a random draw conducted during the debate. Each candidate will have an equal opportunity to speak. You will have 2 minutes for your opening statements. 2 minutes will be given each time for the questions and 1 minute for rebuttals. You guys got any questions before we begin? Okay, fantastic. I've got 3 names in this bucket, and what I'm going to do is draw one out. That'll be our first opening statement, and I'll draw another for the second, and then finally the third. All right, we have Kenton Ford. Kenton Ford will begin the opening statement. Second, we will have Rand Henderson, and Wesley Doolittle will be third. All right, gentlemen, you'll have 2 minutes for your opening statements, and you may begin now.
Hi, I'm Kenton Ford, and I've been a lifelong law enforcement officer. I came here in 1996 and joined the sheriff's office in 1997 after leaving the U.S. Navy. Again, I've been here my entire career, almost 27 years now, and it would be an honor for me to serve you as your sheriff. This is a dream of mine, and it would be an honor to serve you. And again, I've said this and other things, that I've always been in awe of the law enforcement officer wearing their armor, these warriors that are out there defending those that are weak and that cannot protect themselves. I'm a down-to-earth guy. I'm a grandfather of 2 and 1 on the way. A husband of 28 years is the same woman that I met in high school, and I've lived here the entire time after joining the sheriff's office right here in Montgomery County. And I hope I can serve you as your sheriff. Thank you.
All right, Kenton. Great. Rand, if you'd like to go ahead.
You bet. Howdy, I'm Sheriff Rand Henderson. I've been serving you since 1994. I've begun my 30th year in law enforcement, all with the sheriff's office. Went to college at Sam Houston, and when I was there, that's when I fell in love with the law enforcement profession while I worked at the Walls unit while I was putting myself through school. So I didn't wait tables like most kids. I guarded convicted felons, so that was my pathway to becoming a sheriff's deputy. Went to the academy right after graduation, started with the sheriff's office, and started as a deputy, worked my way through the ranks, holding the ranks of corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and then the ultimate honor is serving you as your elected sheriff. I was elected to my first term in 2016, was reelected, took office in 2017, was reelected in 2020, taking office in 2021, and I'm seeking a third term. I've enjoyed my time at the sheriff's office and not ready to stop. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying what we're doing. We're accomplishing a lot, and I still think we have much more to accomplish. It's been my honor to keep the community safe. It's been my honor to serve this community all these years, and to become one of the great law enforcement agencies across the country. Really proud of that. I'm married to Christina, who's a high school teacher at Willis. And we have 2 children. They're not really children. My daughter just graduated from college, and my son is a freshman in college as well. So we're empty nesters, and we're really enjoying life. We worship at First Presbyterian Church in Conroe, and just love being part of this community.
All right, sir. Mr. Doolittle, if you'd like to begin.
Good evening. My name is Wesley Doolittle, and I'm seeking the office of sheriff in 2024. I grew up here in East Montgomery County, and Montgomery County, I've been here for 42 years. I'm married to my wife, Sherry, been married for 20 years. We have 4 children. I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, I'm a family man, and I'm a Republican. I've been a policeman for 23 years now, and I'm running for sheriff because this community has demanded a change in the sheriff's office, and I believe I'm the most qualified candidate for that position. I served 23 years now. I began my career with the Department of Public Safety, where I started out, went through the all-service recruit school. I graduated and was assigned to Texas Highway Patrol. I was a Texas State Trooper for about 5 years. I started off in the Cleveland area, then transferred down to Tomball, served there. Then I challenged myself and I promoted into the Narcotics Division of the Criminal Investigations, or the Criminal Investigations Division in Narcotics. And I was sent to McAllen on the Texas-Mexico border, where I investigated drug cartels, international drug trafficking, and things like that, organized crime. I transferred back up here to Houston. Several years later, I promoted into the Texas Rangers Division, where I continued to challenge myself. Now, I worked some of the most horrific crimes that occur in our communities, and I've seen a lot of really, really bad things. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration and a master's degree in criminal justice leadership and management. And I've seen the crime in our communities. I know the culture. I know the values that we have here, and I understand the problems that we're going to be facing in the future. So I'm asking for your vote for sheriff in 2024, and I'd appreciate the support. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, gentlemen, we're going to begin with round 1 of questioning. Again, I'm going to draw a name to see who goes first.
You want me to just go first? 'Cause I think
All right,
1 or 3.
so this first question will be directed to Sheriff Rand Henderson. He will begin. After that, the next person to answer will be Wesley Doolittle. And then we'll go on to Kenton Ford, and then we'll do rebuttals. Okay, question 1 deals with communications. What is your stance on radio encryption, and how will you ensure that the external responders, such as fire departments and municipal policing agencies, are able to get the proper equipment and have the ability to communicate in evolving critical incidents on the ground and in the field? Go ahead.
Okay. The radio infrastructure is something that we worked, the previous administration brought in the Motorola regional radio system. And the regional radio system allows us to communicate all across the state. I can stand in Galveston and communicate back home easily without nobody would know where I was. I mean, that's how well the radio system works. So the EMS department has a different radio system, but we've got patches that work between the two to ensure that they're seamless. That's been tested. That's been tested several times, and we've discovered problems. One of the biggest ones recently was with the Trump rally. So we have, that was a huge event. Just about every responder you can think of was involved in that, and it exposed some problems that we had. So we've come back, and as we do at the Sheriff's Office, we work with others, including the radio shop, and work with our IT and our in-house, and also the Harris County radio shop, to ensure that the next time we would have a more seamless transition. So we've developed, we have channels where everyone can hear everything. Everyone can hear EMS, everyone can hear fire. We don't allow other agencies to broadcast on law enforcement channels outside of law enforcement. We did go encrypted, and there's a reason that we did that, because the technology has improved so much that it's gone from an enthusiast that might listen to a police broadcast to those that are looking to commit crimes. And we saw a breach not that long ago which really put me over the top where I said, we've got to get this done. There was a desire to do that with the previous sheriff's administration that brought this radio system here. They always wanted to be encrypted. They just never could get the ball to the end zone. So I was able to do that. We are encrypted. This incident I'm speaking of, we had somebody that conned his way in pretending to be a chaplain. So he had a scanner that pretended to be a radio, and so that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay, thank you, sir. Doolittle?
Go ahead and repeat the question
Okay.
so I fully understand it, Hank.
All right. I will ask the question again. What is your stance on radio encryption, and how will you ensure that external responders such as fire departments and municipal policing agencies are able to get the proper equipment and have the ability to communicate in evolving critical incidents on the ground and in the field?
Right. I think that we've learned during incidents such as 9/11, active shooters, different things like that, that communications is paramount. We have to be able to communicate with our law enforcement partners. We have to be able to communicate with EMS. We have to be able to communicate with fire and all those that have a stake in the game. Everybody that comes to the table has to be able to communicate with each other in order to effectively solve problems. So I'll tell you that I've heard a lot about radio encryption, and I don't know that that's the best answer for our community, because there's problems with other agencies that are coming to Montgomery County. There's problems with the folks that have an interest in public safety. I've recently met with one of the ESDs, and they can't afford to purchase the radios to become encrypted, so they can't communicate at all. So it's something that they're very concerned about. I do see that there are some concerns with communications during special events, tactical operations, and things like that, where the privacy of communications is paramount to protect officers' safety and to protect the integrity of investigations, such as surveillance operations and those types of things. But I also believe that we have to be able to communicate in order to effectively serve our public here. So we're going to have to find a way to fix the problems that we have now with communications in our county.
Okay. So from that, I'm to gather that your stance on encryption would be no encryption, correct?
No, not completely, Hank. I believe that if the primary channels, or there was some way for us to have channels for folks to communicate effectively, I think that would be the way that I would like to see it done.
Okay.
And for when I worked narcotics, I did surveillance operations on major drug cartels and organizations. It's paramount for the
Okay,
safety.
I just want to get your answer on that.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you, sir. All right, Kent Ford, I'm going to re-ask the question. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
What is your stance on radio encryption? And how will you ensure that external responders, such as fire departments and municipal policing agencies, are able to get the proper equipment and have the ability to communicate in evolving critical incidents in the field and on the ground?
I think encryption is very important. If you ever served time on the streets and have to respond to call after call after call, you'll understand how important encryption is. When they're already gone or they can hear you coming, meaning the bad guys, I think it's important that everyone be able to communicate for sure. If it takes us communicating with those that doesn't have the proper equipment, there's grants out there. We'll try to help them do that. But obviously, everybody needs to be on the same page where we can communicate. Regarding the encryption for outsiders, it was nice to be able to listen to a scanner and listen to understand what's going on in your garage while you're sitting there tinkering with something. But I think those days are kind of over, because I think people were planning crimes, and it was obvious that if you could go to your phone and scan our radios, and they're 10 steps ahead of us. If we weren't already sitting there, we've already lost. So the encryption is very important. I think anyone and everyone that has anything to do with emergency services should be encrypted. Now, should there be a radio a channel where record drivers can hear what we're doing? I think so. But overall, encryption is very important to the guy on the street, because they can see and hear us coming.
Okay,
Very important.
very well. So from that, you are for encryption?
Absolutely.
Okay, very well. All right, we'll move on to round 2 then. All right, let me get these back and put them back in. Trust me, the questions get harder as we move along. All right. What's your favorite color questions coming up next?
All right.
All right, so the next question will be answered first by Rand Henderson, and secondly by Kenton Ford. All right. This is kind of a long explanation, but I'm getting to something I think very valuable in this question. So just follow me down this road for a second, guys. Okay. And this question deals with public safety and crime prevention. There was a total of 18 homicides, and this is in 2022, 14 of which fell under the sheriff's office purview, out of which 8 of those were cleared. This provided a clearance rate of 57.1%. Additionally, there were 6,412 other crimes, including rapes, robbery, assault, burglary, larceny, and auto theft. These crimes had a clearance rate of 18.3%. The question is what specifically will you do to improve the clearance rate for homicides, and how can the clearance rate for these other crimes be improved as well? And it's directed at Rand Henderson first.
Yeah, that's a big question. So
It is a big question.
The first part, dealing with homicides. So I've been in office for 2 terms, been with the sheriff's office, as I said, in my 30th year. So we've been working to build the most professional homicide, violent crimes unit there is. Our leaders, our vision is to be a leader in this, and so we work to ensure that they have the best training, that they have the best response, that they have the most people. I continue to add people to the homicide and violent crimes unit to ensure they have the most staff possible. A lot of that's to reduce fatigue. A lot of that's to give them time to work on their cases. 14 homicides for a county or a jurisdiction that's got a population of about 750,000. 1 homicide is too many, but those numbers compared to many other jurisdictions, especially during the crime waves that we've seen across the country, are pretty good. So I'm really proud of that homicide unit. The other question about property crimes, what I've done is I've taken and created a precinct model. So property crime detectives, those working assaults, those working things that aren't the most major of cases, they're higher volume. I've reassigned those to work in a precinct model. So instead of having a different command, they're part of the patrol command. So patrol takes the reports, the same detectives that work with that patrol in that same response area work together in collaboration to solve those crimes. So they're under the same roof. We've rebuilt offices and built new offices to ensure that they're under the same roof so they could have interrupted communication between patrol and investigations to ensure those crimes are as seamlessly investigated as possible. That was part of the strategic plan under keeping up with the future population growth, was to reassign personnel and create a precinct model. So we redid response areas in order to bring that down into the smallest unit possible. So it's a more closely tight-knit, highly communicative group. Boom.
That was perfect.
Very well and right on time. Okay, so from your answer, you're going to add additional homicide detectives?
I have been. I've been
Have been adding
adding them constantly. So
Okay.
they each have partners, so we add in 2s. So
And-
they're able to respond in pairs.
Okay, and in property crimes, you're reorganizing and reassigning
I have done that.
individuals and assets?
Yes, I have been doing that. I've got them all under the same roof, and so they can work more seamlessly together.
Very well. All right, Kenton Ford, would you like me to repeat the question?
If you don't mind, yes, I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead and give you all the stats too. All right, back in and I got this from the DPS crime database for 2022, just to let you guys know. These are actual stats, or at least that's what they've been putting out.
Yes, sir.
There was a total of 18 homicides, 14 of which fell under the sheriff's office purview, out of which 8 of those were cleared. This provided a clearance rate of 57.1%. Additionally, there were 6,412 other crimes, including rapes, robberies, assault, burglary, and larceny and auto theft. These crimes had a clearance rate of 18.3%. What specifically will you do to improve the clearance rate for homicides, and how can the clearance rate for these other crimes be improved as well?
I think just starting out by being putting out the vibe of remaining motivated. Everyone can come up with a system to attack these situations, but if you're not motivated or the morale is down, it sometimes you're not as motivated as you would be if everything was great. You're never going to satisfy everyone, but I think that to be happy to be doing your job and to actually be enjoying what your dream was to be a police officer and to solve these crimes. I'm not saying officers are sitting around, I'm not going to solve this crime because I'm upset, but there is a motivating thing that a leader can put out there, and I think that would be the difference. The sheriff's office does great things. They were doing great things when I left, but the motivation and the leadership, I believe, is suffering, and that's the reason why some of those may not be solved. I don't know, but was that my timer?
No. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Motivation, leadership, and just staying on top of these things through your captains, through your majors. I think we could get them cleared up. Some of the murders and stuff like that, that's very difficult because sometimes you may not have a witness or witnesses that do not want to communicate with law enforcement. So those are tough. The murders are very tough to solve if you have no witnesses or cameras or whatever. So I think motivation and leadership will get those numbers up as far as solving the crimes.
Okay. Very well. So from your answer, I can gather that your efforts to solve those types of crimes in Montgomery County would be through additional motivation and leadership
Yes,
skills.
sir.
Okay. Very well. All right. Wesley Doolittle, would you like me to repeat those stats?
No, sir, I think I got it. I've been looking at the stats, and we're not solving enough crime here. We've got a lot of good men and women working at the Sheriff's Department that do the best job that they can. Throwing people at the problem in homicide, I don't know that that's the answer. 14 homicides, I don't know how many people we have, maybe 12 in there, so they're getting maybe one homicide apiece per detective. One unsolved homicide is too many. I've been a homicide investigator for 13 years as a Texas Ranger. And, we always had a reputation of getting our man. And staying on cases, you have to empower your people and give them the tools and the training to do their job. And delegate that responsibility to the lowest level of expertise so they're successful. We solved 5.9% of the stolen vehicles in Montgomery County in 2022. That's far too low. We've got to utilize technology. We've got to utilize three things that solve crime: information, instrumentation, and interrogation. So you got to get the information of who's doing your crime. These organized criminals that are coming to Montgomery County and preying on our communities are doing so just recklessly. We had a doctor stabbed to death at her apartment complex in broad daylight. A girl was nearly kidnapped in Magnolia at the Target store in broad daylight. We have to do better with our crime statistics and our crime rates. Overall, 22% of crimes being solved, that's not going to get it done. We've got to figure out how to get the information, figure out how to empower our people to work, and put the proper people in the right place. Our motor vehicle theft unit had 3 or 4 people in that unit. In this last administration, there were 13 in that unit prior to his administration. So I'll tell you that you've got to figure out where your problems are at, be forward thinking enough to put the people in place to take the information they have to solve the crime. I don't think that a 50% solvability rate on sexual assaults is enough either.
Okay. That's going to be the end of time. So to bring this down to just a simple phrase, what specifically would you do to improve those numbers then, if you were to label it?
I would evaluate each leg or each position in the Sheriff's Department. Make sure the people were in the right place and empower them to do their job and support them while you do it. I get out from behind my desk when there's major crimes going on and support my people.
Okay. Very well. All right, gentlemen, let me get these put back and we'll move forward. All right. All right. Before I ask this question, and this question is going to be about accountability and transparency. All right. And our first taker on this, any bets? Wesley Doolittle. All right.
Finally got one.
Yeah, you finally got one.
And second will be Rand Henderson. All right, Mr. Doolittle.
Yes, sir.
This is an easy question, and I want a really great answer.
I'll do the
So,
best I can.
All right, sounds good. How will you enhance transparency in communication between the sheriff's office and the public, especially during critical incidents or controversies? Before you answer, let me dive a little deeper into this.
Yes, sir.
So, in the case that we have something like, let's say, an active shooter or something like that that's going on, I want to know how you're going to enhance transparency and communication. So, in other words, how are you going to communicate the information that needs to be communicated to the general public, especially during these critical incidents or during controversies? How are you going to handle that? And hang on one second so I can set the timer again, and you may begin.
Well, Hank, I've been involved in some of them situations. I've been involved in school shootings, murders at schools, critical incidents, and things like that in the past. So I have experience in those things, and I'll tell you that communications is important. We had a homicide at Spring High School several years ago, and we were able to kind of get the crime scene started and start the investigation, begin to work on it, but parents were upset because they weren't being communicated with in an effective way. So having great relationships with the media, having the ability to use Facebook, Twitter, those things that people look at all the time during critical incidents, if that's up and running, is a way to start getting communications out there when things become more static and you're not dealing with an initial problem and you're being informed. But I would be at those scenes myself, gathering information, giving information to the public, communicating with the news media on those incidents, and being fully transparent in what's happening. I'll tell you that my experience in working homicides and critical incidents and things of the such give me a unique perspective on what that means to the community and how important it is to communicate what's going on to those parents, to the people that are involved, the loved ones during those critical incidents, to give them information, to provide them instruction, to stage things, and for you, the elected official, to be there at that scene communicating with people so they trust you, so they know that you're giving them accurate and timely information so they can find their loved ones and know exactly what's happening if there's any further threats to the public. So I'll tell you that honesty and transparency in government is something we need more of, and I'll be that person to the community. It's never too late. It's never a bad time. And you should always be available to your community.
Okay. So from that answer, I'm to gather that you yourself are going to be most of the communication portion of that. So whenever there's a critical incident or a controversy, it'll be you as sheriff who will communicate with the general public, correct?
I will address the public. I'll also employ public information officers and such like that to
Okay.
effectively communicate.
Okay, very well. All right, Mr. Henderson, I'm going to go ahead and repeat it just
Okay.
because it sounds good to me. All right, and this is on accountability and transparency. How, sir, will you enhance transparency in communication between the sheriff's office and the general public, especially during critical incidents or controversies?
Well, as a lieutenant, I was a former lieutenant who served as a public information officer. This is an area that I've got some expertise. We, when I took over the agency 7 years ago, our public information office was still one person, so we've expanded that. We've added civilian personnel. We were dark on social media. We had zero social media on no platforms whatsoever. We've built that across all platforms. We've developed an app that anyone can download so you can immediately get alerts. You can immediately get press releases, and you can go to your store right now and download the MCTX Sheriff app, and you can get all of that information. So I plug that every chance I get. As far as active shooter response, we developed a strategic response plan where we actually outlined exactly how we were going to do what you're saying we would do, how we would communicate. That's one part of it. We would stand up a JIC, a Joint Information Communication Center, which would be all assets, so all 3 public safety services coordinated with emergency management. Those plans are in place. We exercise those plans, which means we train them. And then we also added another element with our active shooter training school, which is right down the road in New Caney. We just got $24 million grant from the Texas legislature to serve as one of the premier active shooter training response centers in the nation. Took an old school, and so we've now got the opportunity to do real-life active training 24/7. Well, we're completely in charge of that. So we have the plan. We laid out the plan. We exercise the plan, and we are able to fulfill that need if that unfortunate time ever comes. But as a public information officer, having experience in that realm, I knew from day one that was something that was an area that we needed to expand the sheriff's office. And I think we've done a phenomenal job adding personnel and professionalism to that unit.
All right, very well, sir. And so from that answer, you have created a communications department, and your future plans are to expand that department, correct?
Well, it was existing with one person. We expanded it exponentially, and then we have plans in place as to how they do their job and in special threat situations. It's called the Special Threat Response Plan.
Very well, sir. Thank you. All right, Kenton Ford, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. How will you enhance transparency in communication between the sheriff's office and the public, especially during critical incidents or controversies? And you may begin.
Well, during a critical incident, it's very important that we release some information, but the person that we're looking for may be listening to it as well. So I think it's important that just like we were saying earlier, social media and all that good stuff, there's never a time that you do not want to communicate with parents when they know their kids are in that school or in that building. I've been to several active shooter courses, and communication can jam up. But the most important thing is that we neutralize the threat. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, and I think it's very difficult to release information of the threat and who we're looking for if they're monitoring the situation as well. So I believe that we would release all the information we can until if it's safe to do so. There's never a time I would hold back information regarding the safety of some child that's in that school building. Parents want to know if they're okay and all that stuff, but we can't tell them that if we don't know. And we certainly can't tell them that until we neutralize the threat. And I think we saw earlier in Uvalde and all that stuff, very sad. I think that the first thing and the last thing that we learned in our active shooter courses was to find them and eliminate them. And so that would be my policy anyway. And so it shouldn't be that long of a time that parent is waiting to know if their child is okay or not. But we would never halt or hold up any communication with the family or the community on Facebook or anywhere. But we can only give information if it's safe to do so, because that person may be monitoring it as well. The public has to understand that.
Okay. So to just condense your answer, so you would use selective communication and rely more on solving the critical incident first, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Very well. All right, guys. So we're going to move on to the next question. This one's going to be good, and it's about giraffes in the forest. So, all right, guys. Here we go. And there will come a part right after this question where I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to cross-examine each other. So we look forward to that. All right. So first for this one will be Kenton Ford. 7 second will be Wesley Doolittle. Rand Henderson will be third. Okay. This also has a bit of an explanation behind it as well. This is on policy and policing, okay? On June 23rd of 2020, Montgomery County Commissioners Court adopted the Montgomery County, Texas ordinance regulating incident management towing rotation and storage services, pursuant to chapters 2308.209 of the Texas Occupation Code, and took effect on January the 1st. The ordinance applies to non-consent incident management tows of motor vehicles in the unincorporated areas of Montgomery County initiated by a peace officer. Question is, can you provide your thoughts on the equity or impartiality of this system? If you do not agree with this policy, how specifically would you change it and why? And I really want to drill down on this issue. I want to get it solved.
Am I starting now?
Yes, sir. You can begin.
Well, I think one of the things that we have a problem with is the rotation. I'm not saying that we should do away with the rotation, but the way we're doing it now is not. I don't think it's the correct way to do it. I think that it's all dehumanized. No one speaks to anyone, and these record drivers are out there trying to make a dollar, feed their family, and they have to regarding the non-consent. We can't even. The officers, if there's a vehicle in the middle of the road, they can't even say first record on the scene. If you've ever been on 45 and heard cars screeching towards you, it's a very scary situation. They can't even say first record on scene to save these people's lives on 45 when people are doing 80, 90 miles an hour around them. So I think it needs to change. I think we should be able to have a first record on scene or whatever. But the rotation, from what I gather from the record drivers, most that are participating in it are not happy because they could drive from Magnolia all the way to 45, and if they miss out on that, they don't want them to drive fast. They could miss out on it, and they'll skip them on the rotation. So I think it needs to change. I would implement other plans or try to change that type of policy regarding the record services, because sometimes it favors the larger companies versus the small companies as well.
Okay. Very well. So from your answer, condensed, so you're not happy with the present system, you would change it, but you don't exactly have plans on how you would change it.
I would certainly listen to the record driver community, and we would come up with a solution.
Okay. Very well. All right, Wesley Doolittle, would you like me to repeat that?
No, sir, I think I understand it.
All right, very well. You may begin.
So this kind of goes back to the communications component that we were talking about earlier. So from what I understand, they're notified through an app. If phone lines are down, if we have a natural disaster, if something's going on and those communications aren't working, we have to have a contingency plan. We have to have another way to address these issues. I'll tell you that with them not being able to hear the radios, not being able to hear the accidents drop and things like that, they're being notified after a deputy gets to a scene, and if it's a major accident or a fatality accident, the Sheriff's Department's not investigating those, they're calling for a DPS trooper. The troopers are on the border, they're in Austin, they're in other areas, they're waiting extended amounts of time for an investigator to get there. I'll tell you that the Sheriff's Department has to do better in their accident investigations. They have the same number of investigators or same number of traffic guys that they've had since he took office. There's 4 traffic deputies and a sergeant. So we've got to get a traffic unit that's going to investigate these majors and these fatality accidents. Like I said, there's 750,000 people living in this county. There's no reason at all that this Sheriff's Department should not have an effective traffic unit. If we can get investigators to the scene quicker and we can clear these scenes from the roadway, ensure that people's health and safety are taken care of, that their property is taken care of, and that a thorough and complete investigation is being done in a timely manner, then we'll be doing our job. So I do think that we have to evaluate the tow policy, and I'm not sure that changing rotation is the answer, but I will tell you, you do have to meet with the people that have a stake in the towing industry in order to serve the community more effectively. That's not being done now.
Okay. So to condense your answer, you're unhappy with the present system, and you would also do an evaluation in the future to see how you could best handle it and take care of everyone involved, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very well. Mr. Henderson, would you like me to repeat the question, sir?
I think I got it.
Okay, then you may begin.
So when I came into office, I was unhappy with the current system, as was the current administration that was there. We were doing 15-minute record calls, so we constantly got complaints. The commissioners constantly got complaints about record drivers racing to scenes, and it was dangerous. There have been exposés on the news. I mean, we were kind of a laughing stock when it came to our method of sending records to crash scenes. So enabling legislation had to be created. That was started in the previous administration, got passed during my administration. No, take that back. It was passed during the previous administration, then we were able to move the ball forward. And it was, change comes difficult. It doesn't bode well for a lot. And it's also difficult as a leader to impose change, because when you kick the ant bed, you burn your political currency. I mean, it's a very difficult process. So there had been an unwillingness in the past by members of the court and others to make this happen. But it's a three-part process. We wanted to create our precinct model that I referenced earlier. We wanted to encrypt the radios, and a lot of that was contingent on a record rotation versus a 15-minute record call. You can't encrypt if you've got everyone listening to your radios, then you're not encrypted anymore. So we knew we had to do that process. It's been difficult. And yeah, I have burned some political currency in order to serve the public. But this wasn't done to punish the record service. This wasn't done to reward the record service. This was done to reward the public, to give them what they were calling for, which were safer scenes, record drivers not speeding to scenes, because we were incentivizing them to do so. The faster you get there, and then, the more likely you are to get a tow. So now we've got a more orderly system. It's not a perfect system. It's constantly being adjusted. We've added personnel who are able to better monitor and go investigate the infractions by the record companies. There's been a lot of those, and that's the biggest complaint we get from the record industry, are those that are cheating, that aren't following the rules. So we're doing what we can as a law enforcement agency to ensure everyone follows the record ordinance, which is, carries the weight of law.
Okay, thank you, sir. And so to condense your answer, you're not exactly happy with the present system, but you are working to try to evolve it, correctly?
Always. It'll always be an evolving product, as are most things in our business.
Very well. Okay.
Hank, can I have a rebuttal on that?
Absolutely, sir. You get 1 minute for rebuttal, and you can begin right now.
So I did an open records request, or have a friend that did open records request to the Sheriff's Department. We found 0 complaints that were returned from that request about speeding to scenes. So that's hard for me to believe when we asked for that and didn't receive any complaints. I'll tell you that record drivers are still speeding to scenes when they got a 25-minute turnover time, and that communications is still lacking, that we're not able to do that. So we're going to have to figure out a way to better serve the public and get these accidents investigated quicker. Recently, there was a fire truck sitting on Interstate 45 waiting 3 hours for an investigator. That and a second accident occurred, taking out a $3 million piece of equipment. So we've got to do better for this community. We have to do better for the public.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any redirection on that, gentlemen? No? Okay. Very well. All right, we'll move on to budget and resource allocation. Now we're talking about the money. All right. So first on this will be Rand Henderson. Second will be Kenton Ford. All right. So let's discuss the budget. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office now has a $113 million budget set for 2024. Good Lord, that's a lot of money. How do you plan to manage the budget of the Sheriff's Office effectively, ensuring the allocation of resources aligns with community needs and priorities? And
Come up on that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a $113 million budget. It's the largest single budget within the county. It's actually bigger than that when you add contracts, revenues, non-departmental, other budgets that aren't in our budget. We're about $134 million. The lion's share of that is the jail. And we continue to add resources there because we've had unfunded mandates that have been put on us, medical, mental health, and prescription drug costs continue to climb. So the budget continues to climb as well. Part of the increase has been through salary increases. Pretty proud of that. So we 2 years prior, we got 5% raises. So that's big chunks when you've got 1,034 employees. Those percentages are pretty significant in the budget. So my biggest change that I made when I came into office were two. One is zero-based budgeting, which is starting the budget from scratch every single year. So instead of building on what last year's budget was or keeping money in your budget for something you already bought, which is common in government with line item budgeting, we build from scratch. So my leadership team, the division managers, work with their lieutenants and sergeants and staff to build a budget that includes training, equipment, assets, you name it. Every bit of it is built from scratch, and it's backed up with invoices submitted in a huge budget packet every year to the budget office, and we work collaboratively to ensure we get our equitable and fair share. I won't stand for defunding the sheriff's office, and thankfully we have a court that has been very amenable to adding personnel and equipment to the sheriff's office. The way we determine the number of personnel that we need is through a statistical analysis where we determine what the call load is and come up with a number, and that number is empirical in nature. So when we go to court to argue for new personnel, the argument isn't about that we need personnel. The court recognizes that. It's how we're going to work together to get the funding to do so. And we've been able to do that. I've increased my budget every year, but in the right reasons and for the right reasons.
Okay, thank you, sir. Kenton Ford, would you like me to repeat the
I'm
question?
good.
All right.
I think zero-based budgeting is great. I think you need to analyze where your money's going and where the shortcomings are. I think there's a lot of special projects, and I think those resources could be redirected in other areas. I truly believe that our patrol division has suffered, and I know our jail is suffering as well. Patrol division has suffered since I started in '97, and I've never understood it. I've never been in the chair to allocate those funds, but at the same time, I've never understood why there was one or two deputies in such a large area, such as cut and shoot, all the way to this area or this area over there. It's very frustrating for an officer, and it could certainly you already have a stressful job as it is. So you need more. I think you need more patrol officers out on the street. I think you need more cars out on the street. And I would narrow some of the. I don't know if I would spend less money, but I would spend more money on the public seeing us and preventing crime. So the zero-based budgeting is great, but I think more money needs to be spent on us being seen, us communicating with the community in coffee shops, restaurants, stuff like that. It's very important that we're seen, and I think that's what prevents crime. As far as, again, what the money is concerned, I would take away a lot of the special things that are going on and then allocate those towards patrol more than anything.
Okay. Okay, so just to condense your answer, so you would reevaluate the budget
Yes.
and try to apply funds in different areas and get rid of special projects and monies that have been earmarked for things that you
Correct.
feel may not be necessary.
Yes.
Correct? Okay, very well. And Wesley Doolittle, would you like me to repeat the question, sir?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
I'll answer it.
All right, very well. You may begin.
We talked about transparency a little bit. When I go to the Sheriff's Department website, I don't see their budget posted. That's something that I think that we should post for the public to see where your money's going and enhance that transparency component. The budget does have to be evaluated every year. You want to evaluate programs that you're spending money on to make sure that they're still relevant, that they're still useful, they haven't aged out, and then forecast new things that you need to be effective in your job. $113 million, that is a big budget. But we need to make sure that we're spending every penny to enhance the safety of the public in our community, and that we're not wasteful in our spending, and that we get the most bang for our buck when we do our budget. And make sure that those programs that are aged out are taken off the budget, and the new things that we want are asked for. I'll tell you that natural disasters, things like that come up, and the amount of money we're spending in overtime because we're so short-handed at the Sheriff's Department We got to do a better job of hiring people and retaining people at the Sheriff's Department, improving the morale, keeping the people around, because it costs a lot of money to hire a deputy, to train them and to retain them. So I think we can do a better job with some of those things and just be sensible in our spending. So I would do that as your sheriff.
Okay. Very well, sir. And so to condense that, you would also evaluate the budget. Additionally, you would post that budget on the Sheriff's Department website, correct?
Yes, sir. Transparency.
Okay. And ensure that money is being spent for the enhancement of the department and the community as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very well. All right, we're going to move on to the next round. Y'all are going to love this one. All right. And this question deals with issues. Wesley Doolittle will go first.
He's having too much fun knowing the questions.
Rand
ahead of time.
Henderson will go second, and Kenton Ford will go third. And the question is Wesley, you are allowed to ask either one of the candidates any question about this campaign that you would like to ask. That person that you ask the question of will have 2 minutes to answer, and you'll also have 1 minute to rebut. So go ahead. You can ask anyone you want, except for me. Don't ask me because I don't know. But you can ask Mr. Henderson or Mr. Ford.
I got to think about this one for a second.
We have all the time in the world.
Okay, Rand, your first goal in your strategic plan is to reduce crime and the fear of crime. That has not happened under your administration. Crime has almost doubled. What will you do in the future to make sure that the people of this community are safe and improve your solvability rates?
Oh, that's a great question. So yeah, that's reducing crime and the fear of crime. That's obviously that's what we do in law enforcement. That's what we want to do. But our community has continued to grow, and with that has come some of the crime. Obviously, not all of it. We have instituted programs like community policing, where we have trust with our community. So if, for example, during the George Floyd protests that we had going on, they weren't protesting us, they were protesting them, people elsewhere, because they had faith and trust in our law enforcement agency. Well, you don't have faith and trust in a law enforcement agency if you don't think that they're doing their job, if you don't think that they're keeping you safe, if you don't feel safe. We have businesses moving here like crazy. We have people moving from all over the world, including California, to come here. So because we're a boom town, we're safe. It's a great place to raise your kids. Y'all have chosen to raise your kids here as well, and as have I. And any of us could move away, but we didn't because it's safe and secure. We enjoy being here. We love the conservative community. It's overwhelmingly Republican conservative. We have conservative ideals. We're a godly county. We're a godly jurisdiction. And because of those ideals, we look out for one another. We work with the community. The community works with government to ensure that we're successful together. And we've been given the assets and the tools and the resources to be able to do this. That the court, Commissioner's Court, and other bodies such as the Woodlands Township have given us 42 new positions, and that we're able to hire those positions where many jurisdictions across the country struggle to hire anyone. We're able to not only fill our ranks but retain our ranks. People start as cadets and work all the way to retirement with our agency, and I'm really proud of that. I hope to be one of those one of these days. And this is a tremendous community. This is where we all want to retire, and that we're here speaks volumes.
Mr. Doolittle, you have 1 minute to rebut if you'd like to rebut.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hank, as you mentioned in 22 stats, crime's doubled under his administration, and I understand plans. I think you have to have plans. But when your plans are not effective and they're not working to reduce crime, we're growing at a rate about 3.2% per year. Our growth rate has only grown about 19%, yet crime has doubled. So when your plans aren't working, you have to reevaluate your plans and be flexible. Criminals are, if your front door is locked, they'll go check the back door. They'll check your windows. We also have to be flexible. I'll also tell you that we've had a high turnover rate at the Sheriff's Department. A lot of people left under his administration. In the past, we were running about a 13% vacancy, which was around 65 officers, if I'm correct on that. And we have to do better to retain our people. So my continued question is, why have you not reduced crime if that's your plan?
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right, Mr. Henderson, it is your turn to ask either of these candidates whatever question you'd like to ask.
You know, that was in your rules, so I knew this question was coming. So I've been thinking about it, trying to prepare. But you know, I believe in authentic leadership, so I just got to be me. So I'm not a big gotcha guy, so I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, bring it.
So I want to know what your favorite ice cream is and why.
Oh, Lord.
You have 2 minutes to
You
answer
have
this
2
question.
minutes.
Pecan praline, because Bluebell makes the best.
You still have 1 minute and 57 seconds. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you that I believe in authentic leadership. I know leadership. I've got a master's degree in leadership. I wrote business plans. I know about crime. I've been a Texas Ranger for 13 years. I've seen some of the most horrific crimes in our country. And I'll tell you, Hank, that it bothers me. I think that we have to do better at solving crime in our community. We have to do better at retaining people. We have to do better at serving our community here in Montgomery County.
I'm going to go ahead and stop you there, though, because that's kind of out of the realm of the question that he asked. So.
Well, I thought you gave me 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, I was going to give you 2 minutes for that question.
I didn't have anything to do with ice cream.
All right. All right, Kenton Ford. You can ask either of these
I'm gonna
gentlemen
ask Wesley a question.
any kind of question you want to, and he'll have 2 minutes to answer.
During my 21-year career, the last 10 or 12 years, I can't remember, I was a supervisor over 20 to 50 people eating a given night, 5 days a week. Sometimes when we went to 12s, it was different. That's a lot of people, a lot of different things, a lot of different mortgages, a lot of different people that have kids, a lot of different problems. Up to the point that you went to Precinct 1, have you ever supervised anyone?
Lots of people. I'll tell you that I've ran major criminal investigations, long-term criminal investigations for years. As a Texas Ranger, I've been case agent on a investigation with multiple agencies and hundreds of thousands of dollars of money and man hours working with DEA, HPD, Harris County, Pasadena, just about any of the agencies that you can imagine. And I was a case agent on those, where I supervised the movements of surveillances, wrote business plans, asked for money, helped write wires, things like that, and had hundreds of people involved in these operations. And I've continuously done that, not just on narcotics investigations, I've done it on organized crime investigations, and I've continued to supervise and plan my entire career on working with agencies all throughout Texas, all throughout South Texas, all throughout Southeast Texas. As a captain of the Precinct 1 Constable's Office, I supervise 4 divisions. I supervise the Marine Division, I supervise the Detective Division, I'm at Internal Affairs and Recruiting Divisions. So I supervise folks all the time. And I'll tell you, when I think about the job of a sheriff, anybody can be a manager. You can manage things, but you have to lead people. You have to inspire them. They have to trust you. And you have to show them sometimes that you're willing to do the job that they'll do and support them throughout that process, so you inspire the trust. We've all read thousands of books on leadership. And I think an authentic leader in the Sheriff's Department who has the experience and people trust will do better for this community. We'll solve more crime, and we'll have a happier and healthier rank and file at the Sheriff's Department. So yes, I've supervised people my whole career.
I have to disagree.
That timing was great on that. Would you like to rebut Kenton Ford?
I'm talking about 20 to 50 people a night where we're scheduling days off for next Saturday, or someone's sick and we're having to cover for that person. That's the type of supervision I'm talking about. Up to this point, I don't think he's done that. People rely on supervision. People rely on true leadership. If you've never been exposed to that over a serious period of time, you have no idea how it feels. So that's my comment back to that.
Okay, very well, sir. All right, so we're going to move on to closing statements. I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to close. It needs to be different than your opening statement. I want it to have some real substance to it. Kenton Ford, you're going to go first. Rand Henderson, you'll be second. And we'll finish it out with Wesley Doolittle. Kenton Ford, 2 minutes, sir. You may begin.
Montgomery County, I've served here since 1997. I came from the rough area of Houston area. I learned a lot by coming from that part of town. It was an honor to serve from 97 to 2018 at the sheriff's office. I saw where the problems were. I saw where the problems were when this administration came in. There's a lot of intelligence involved, but when you have to, where are you going to use that intelligence? How are you going to treat your people? When I was in South County, which I was assigned to for a long period of time, they brought in a certain person that destroyed everything that we ever did down there. The atmosphere, it was like walking into a funeral home. It was horrible. Some of us felt like it was done on purpose because maybe there wasn't a lot of support for Rand at that time, but none of us spoke against Rand. But it was very obvious the goal when they took over. And a lot of people left. I left in 2018. But I think that if I was to be elected sheriff, I would prove to each and every person, even if they didn't support me, why you should have voted for me. I will work with those people that were obviously against me, rather than running them off or making the atmosphere so tough that you just want to leave. A leader will prove to those people the reason they should have supported you. March 5th, 2024, please vote for Kenton Ford. Keep me in your prayers, and I'll keep you in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. And Rand Henderson, hold on 1 second there. Quit that timer. All right. You may begin, sir.
Once again, I'm Sheriff Rand Henderson, running for my third term. Wish we would have talked about some additional topics. I'm sorry we're out of time. I'd love to have talked about border security and some of our initiatives. Our vision for the Sheriff's Office is to serve as a role model for public safety services in the state of Texas, and we've done that with our border response initiatives. The way we've been working to combat human trafficking, human smuggling, and one of the worst drug epidemics I've ever seen in my career, what we're dealing with fentanyl. I'm proud of the response strategies that I've worked to create with District Attorney Brett Ligon, who's endorsed my campaign and is one of my biggest supporters. I'm proud of the force multiplier approach that we've taken and working together to work smarter, not harder, and that together we're stronger than the sum of our individual parts when we do so. So that's what we do in leadership. That's what we do in our elected offices. We work with others to get them the assets, to get the folks that do the job the assets that they need to be able to do their job as best as possible. I am incredibly proud of the men and women that work at the Sheriff's Office. 1,030 employees is a big ship, and I am proud of the culture that we've built. Sometimes you've got to break something before you can move forward. Ask President Trump. I mean, we came into office at the same time, and President Trump did not believe in status quo, nor do I. And I'm willing to burn political currency in order to advance the agency, and I've done that. We have moved the agency forward with technology, with culture, and crime-fighting techniques. And I'm really proud to work with my partners in law enforcement, and I'm proud of my staff and the job that they do every day. I ask for your support. I ask for your vote. My name's Rand Henderson. I'll be on your ballot. Early voting starts February 20th. March 5th is our election day. You can go to my website for more information, randhenderson.org. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. You had 2 seconds left. That was
I
awesome.
knew it was pretty close.
All right. Wesley Doolittle, are you ready, sir?
No, I'm ready, sir.
All right. You may begin.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not a slick politician, but I am a lifetime lawman. My name is Wesley Doolittle, and I do want to be your sheriff. I'll honor the men and women of the Sheriff's Department and give them all the tools they need to do their job, and I'll stand with them as they do it. I'll support them, and I'll make sure that they're honored, that they have everything they need, Hank. I'll fearlessly lead them in this process, and they'll look up to me, and I'll show them, and I'll earn their respect just like I want to earn your vote. You elect me to be your sheriff, you get a lifetime lawman, a professional lawman, somebody that has integrity, somebody will be honest with you, and somebody will be wearing this big old white hat when we show up and you see us on a scene where we're communicating with you and telling you the truth, telling you the things that will help you and get you through those hard times. I've been there before, and I'm looking forward to being there as your sheriff. So please go to my website if you want to learn more about my campaign. It's DoolittleForSheriff.com, and my Facebook is Wesley Doolittle for Sheriff 2024. I'll also tell you that I have a fairly good amount of endorsements myself. I'm endorsed by Sheriff Tommy Gage, who served us for 12 years. I'm endorsed by Sheriff Joe Corley, who also served the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office for 12 years. Constable David Hill, who served for 40 years, along with many other respected elected officials who know what I'm made of and know that I'll do the best job I can for this county, and I'll work with all agencies, all constables, all police departments, our fire departments, our towing companies, everybody that has a stake in public safety. And you'll get a humble lawman who will meet with you, talk to you, and not burn that currency. I'll earn your respect. Thank you very much. I'm Wesley Doolittle.
Thank you, sir. 2 seconds. It was awesome.
Got it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to conclude the debate for this evening. Thanks for checking us out. And go to these guys' websites and go to their Facebook pages. Learn everything you can. Make intelligent choices at the voting box. It's important. This race is very important. It's going to lead us in the direction of the Sheriff's Department for the next 4 years. Be careful how you vote. Look forward to some other things we got coming up. And as for now, looks like we're out. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
It was an honor.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Nice job, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Are we out, Billy?
You didn't do the clap.
He did not, did he?
I didn't need to because we're
Enjoy your Friday.
streaming
Take care.
live.
Yeah. Enjoy your cold weather.
It was a real pleasure. You bet.